maybe at least this one will work. It may let me add it in a minute, but for some reason when I launch the other software, it will not. Well, it's still saying we've reached a limit of 2 extra cameras. Don't know. Still clear? Can you see me? Like non-Atari tonight.
Who are you and what have you done with Clack?
Yeah. Yeah, I got it hardwired over there and everything's connected, so I guess that's only 11 people, man. We're kind of slacking tonight.
Well, you know, daylight savings time messes with us all.
maybe that's what it is. There's 16.
See, I'm one of those,
they're getting here.
I'm one of those people who'd rather just stay on it. Let's flip it here in the spring and then just not go back in the fall because I like my evening daylight. I could care less in the morning.
Yeah, they need to just go ahead and do away with it. I think that's kind of a little old school, and yeah, it still will not let me do it. It keeps saying we got 2 extra cameras already. Oh well. Guess that's no extra cameras. You might can put can you put yours back up now?
No,
because it won't let me. It's here got me blocked. It says you've got too many cameras already. Got a little sad face.
Yep. See, there's my laser camera.
Well, if anybody needs to see anything other than what they can see on this camera, it's going to be on you tonight, big man. You done blocked me on my cameras with all those extra ones. Because it is flat. I mean, it won't even. It's like I get like a little sad face. It says you've reached the limit. All right, guys. Yeah. Where's the chat? Hang on. Let me get the chat up here. I was wondering why I wasn't seeing no chat. Hello, Mark, everybody. Minnesota Makers, one of your neighbors up there, Steve. Maria.
Yeah.
Oh, my hair's pretty tonight. Is it Brian? Yep, that's Brian. Yeah, I wonder if my internet's not adequate now, guys, we've got a problem. Not tramp to the machine head makes me sad. Hi from Minnesota, Claire. There's another one of your neighbors up there, Steve.
Mm-hmm.
Stoda, yeah, I'm guessing that's must be the Viking shirt. Yeah, Steve's wearing a Viking shirt tonight.
It was a freebie.
Thank y'all. I appreciate it, Eric. I'm hoping that I don't know if you mean I look sharp. I'm dressed the way I always am, or maybe my resolution is a little sharper. Either way, I'm good with it. Much better video. Yeah. Well, guys, let me show you this. I have been dragging cable. I have been doing all kinds of stuff to try to accomplish this, and I have done it. There is my speeds in the Clack Shack as of right before we started this live. So if that's not enough internet, we got problems. We got some serious problems. I don't quite have my full gig, but I think that's pretty good considering I'm going through a switch out here at the shop. 2 of his favorite guidance counselors.
That's a dangerous thought. That's a dangerous thought.
Ooh, somebody's got problems with their bed alignment. I thought he meant like when he said bed. I thought he meant like his serious real bed. All right. I think I've made it through. The resolution is great. Eric, thank you. Brian, appreciate you. Yeah, 2 minutes. I usually have pretty good internet. Like I said, guys, the problem, okay. Do I need to Photoshop the gray, guys? It's the lights, what it is. It's the lights up here, and that's what it is. It's just the gray. It's mostly brown. It just looks gray because of the lights. But how's everybody doing? Oh, we got 42 in here now, so they did show up. The Viking shirt was unsuccessful. And Steve, they said your hair looks great as always.
It's because I'm wearing a hat.
Well, Brian, I'm sure Brian will be in here in a minute to pay you some compliments. That's going to happen. He'll be on over here to do that in just a minute. Is my tracking still working? No. Yeah. Okay. Kind of. Sort of.
Well, now it just messed
Not
up.
really.
Cut you half off. There you go.
Well, it's a little slow. It's a little slow to catch up. But I did that because I noticed the other day I was kind of leaning, and then I'd stay there for a while, and so I was hoping maybe it would help. But it's probably not going to. Yeah, my wife said it is the light. See, it's brown, guys. That's it's the reflectivity of the light. That's all it is. Let me see if I can add this other camera again. I think Steve's got me blocked. Nope, still in timeout, Steve. We're gonna have to we'll have to remember that. Only one camera each at a time.
Didn't know there was a limit.
The name without the comment. Yeah. I didn't know there was a limit either. I thought the other day we had more than that, but apparently there is. But yeah, guys, I put a lot of work in trying to get the internet doing a little better, and it seems to be working. I'm actually hardlined, and I would show you, but I can't add my other camera. But I've been testing a lot of machines. Y'all seen the Asmer? Steve, did yours show up yet, or is it still in transit?
Last I heard, they were going to send me tracking information on it, but I haven't seen that yet.
Okay. Well, Steve's supposed to have one coming too, guys. It's the Asmer 10 watt. I've been pretty impressed with it for a 10 watt so far. And I've got you did get
this.
Cool. I agree there. Was it Glennis? I agree with that 100%. Look, guys, you can't see my skin up there nowhere, so that's a win in my book. Better than Glennis said. But yeah, I got a shipping notification from Adam Stack. I'm gonna get to try the Adam Stack one out. It's supposedly on the boat already.
Yeah, I got my shipping notices as well. But if you look at the weight on them, they're like under 2 kilos each because I got 2 tracking numbers. So they're either lying about the weight or they're sending some of the accessories first. So we'll see what shows up.
Yeah, they sent me an email and said that some of the stuff was going to ship early before the machine.
Mm-hmm.
The machine's still, from what I've been told, the machine's still in like manufacturing. I haven't seen one out there. So what they told me basically was that the machine was going to be a little delayed. They were going to go ahead and start shipping some of the accessories out so I could get used to them. So hopefully that's what's going on because I've got 2 just like you did. One of them, if you look up the product number, one of them is the cutting surface, and the other one is the rotary. I think it is. Cool. So that's why there's 2 small packages so far. And then I got the Falcon. Were you getting a Falcon, or I don't remember if you had one of those coming or not. But that thing's it's pretty awesome. But it's been kind of busy, so I haven't really had a chance to do a lot with them. Trying to fix the internet so that Brian will quit picking on me about my blurry picture. Try to get that straightened out. So been a lot going on.
Well, you got to add the bathroom and kitchen out in the shack too now, right?
Well, I'm getting there. Oh, by the way, if you didn't see it, guys, that's my new tumbler. A friend of mine, Megan. Oh, that camera's going to go crazy trying to find it. A friend of mine, Megan, and I'll have to put a link down below. But she makes these things, and I did a job for her on a sign that she wanted engraved. And while she was here, I told her to make me a tumbler. And this is hand drawn like wood. She wanted to make it look like my cup was turned on a lathe. And I think she's done a pretty good job of it. So it's pretty awesome. But she does ship if y'all want some. She's got some crazy stuff she does. But shout out to Megan for that. Thanks. Appreciate you. But I'll have to find her channel. All right. We got any questions out there? Y'all better go ahead and get them out of the way because y'all know sometimes it takes us a minute to answer them. We might lose you in the comments. I got me a new monitor, so I can actually do multitasking now. Well,
we'll see if that improves
let Let me explain. I didn't get a new monitor, okay? Apparently, my wife is having a hard time seeing the TV that was in our bedroom, so I bought a bigger one. And the old TV from the bedroom got moved to the shack. So I've got like a 36, maybe 36, 37 inch smart TV now. So makes it pretty cool. Let me try that. Phoenix Gallery. All right, there we go. Yeah, let me know if my resolution starts dipping. It shouldn't, unless this computer is giving me problems. But I'm over here actually doing stuff in the background. All right, now I got the link. So here's her link. I told her I'd give her a shout out. So we're gonna throw that in here. There we are. Do you want to use electrostatic paint, Steve?
I haven't played around with the electrostatic paint or anything. I've seen some people messing around with that and the powder coating type material, and mixed success with that on some materials. But I haven't tried it specifically to let you know if a certain amount of power is needed for it or not. It seems like some of that stuff you kind of got to get the colors. I don't know. When I was looking into some of it, maybe it was the powder coating powder, but it seemed kind of expensive for an experiment. Like you had to buy a whole set of colors, and each one was a little expensive. So, if someone's got a
Not
connection with,
you...
yeah, it's like if you knew someone that had it, you could just like, hey, can I get a little bit of each? That would be interesting. But definitely, I know a lot of people play around with some methods like that for adding color, and that would be fun to play with.
Yeah. But no, I've thought about trying the powder coating thing, but I haven't really got around to that yet. I'm gonna go ahead and add this link to the Facebook page as well. That is that's the Facebook page for our group that we've got. I can't see the comments right now, so I'm just typing.
So Joe's asking about has anyone designed near zero clearance hold downs for the Honeycomb? I've got some that are 3D printed that probably are about, the top part's about an 1/8 inch thick, even with some of the shrouds and shields on there, that gets pretty close. I've tried making some out of some thin plywood and rare earth magnets. I don't know if I have any right with me. They work with lighter weight material, but that's if it's flat and you're just trying to keep it in place. If you're trying to hold it down because it has a bend to it, it's hard. You need the thicker magnets to have enough holding power, is what I've found. So I haven't been able to find anything that's thinner than an 1/8 inch that really works well, other than if it's like something that's already flat. How about you? Have you
Well, I mean, I got my little pins that I use with my leather and stuff, but I don't use them a whole lot. That's not it's really not something I have a big problem with. If I've got some kind of material that's a little out of flat, then I'll just adjust the focus for it and go with it. So, but no.
Let's see if I have those here. Oh yeah.
Kent, I haven't tried the infrared laser module, but I think, those are pretty cool.
So these are ones, I added these on one. I forget which video it was, but I showed a couple different methods of hold downs, and those are ones that are trying. Like I said, they work okay for thinner, lighter material that's already together, or that's already flat.
Mark, I have no idea, man. I know the outside of it is epoxy. She paints these. From what I was told, she hand paints them, and then she covers it with epoxy. I don't know how she got this on here. I have no idea. It's underneath the epoxy. So I mean, you can't feel it. I don't know if she printed that or if she actually painted that as well. I don't know. I just sent her the SVG file and went and picked my cup up. But I told her I either wanted like some kind of wood, and I told her just to use her creativity, because I know how that is when you're kind of an artist of sorts, and somebody's trying to tell you exactly how to do something. But I told her I needed it to be wood grain to kind of match the shack, and so she said she decided to do this because it looks as if it was made out of wood on a lathe or something. I thought it was kind of cool, but I don't know how she does though. I don't know how she done it. I just went and picked it up. It was in a box when I got it, so I don't know. Y'all would have to ask her. I don't know. I don't know if that's a Cricut or not, and I don't. And Megan would have to answer that because that's a really really fine line. I mean, she may have some kind of machine printing them. Yeah, I don't know. I can ask. Maybe she can explain it to me, but I just saw some that she does. She does a lot of them, and she does some like really really crazy ones, like 3D. Like she's got one that's a bass. She's got some that are like they like. I don't know how you put them in a cup holder, but she has some pretty cool ones. She also does photography and some other stuff on the side. But it's a little private, public little business, kind of like mine, where her hobby got out of hand. There's your question.
Yeah. Jack, I think you commented on one of my videos too about this. So that's in line with most of what mine are using right now. On my X tool, I'm actually using their pump, which is no more than 30 liters a minute on that. And I think if I remember right, you were using lower power to preserve your laser and multiple passes. And I think part of the problem that's adding to some of the char on top, if that's what you're talking about, is the number of passes that it goes through where it can't cut. The only way that debris and smoke is going to go anywhere is back up out instead of through. And then that can add to some of the surface staining you'll get around the cut. Adding some air to that might help a bit, but I think the trick is to have a balance of using a little higher power to cut through it in fewer passes so that there's less times that it's going over and spreading that on there. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. Because you want to try to punch through with the first pass if you can, because like you said, Steve, if you don't go all the way through the material, even if you're using air assist, there's nowhere for that air to go but down in the cut and right back out. If you punch all the way through, then the air assist will actually force the smoke and debris out the bottom. And if you're using a honeycomb and you've got plenty of air gap under there, it'll dissipate to the point to where it won't stain the wood, because that superheated like residue is what does all that yellow staining. It's not necessarily dust. Dust blows off relatively easy. It's that the chemicals and the liquid that is basically getting in an instant. Whatever moisture is in there is just turned into vapor, and so that's what's causing that staining. But if you can blow that stuff through the bottom of the material and out of the bottom, then you avoid that. And that's why I actually do see a little bit of scorching, or not scorching, but staining when I run air assist while I'm engraving. But I know it's going to do it. I'm prepared for it. I hit it with some sandpaper and I'm done. But if you do not go all the way through the material on the first pass, you're going to get more yellowing than somebody that's punching straight through the first pass. I mean, there's no two ways around it. But yeah, I agree with you on that, Steve. 100%. The object of the game is to try to get through in one pass if you can without going too slow. There's another one. Steve likes to tell you the science behind it.
Depends on your budget.
Go ahead.
So yes, they do make some that you can have as a bit of an inline filter. so you've probably seen some of them, like the small desktop units. I know both Clack and I have the ComGrow one, and that just vents out the bottom of the box, and there's no real way to capture that unless you put that inside of another box. If you look at some of the indoor grow tent type filters, they actually put the filter on the inside of the enclosure, and then they pull it through there, out the fan, and then outside, and that does some filtering as well, which would do some on one of these lasers. But again, you got to do that. But it's hard to do it kind of in the pipe. But there are some kind of mid-level ones, like why am I drawing? Like Monport, they have a filter that has both an inlet and an outlet duct, so that you could actually put that kind of in line and then run it through the filter and then run it out through another fan outside. So that would be possible. Other than that, you're looking at some fairly expensive machines and or enclosures to be able to put one kind of in between your laser enclosure and then the outside. So if you've got space to either put it in your enclosure, you can do that, or if you can build a box in line to put a filter in, you can. Otherwise, you're really looking at the BOFA filter units, and those tend to cost a bit more. Like you're looking at $1,000 on up, and then hundreds of dollars per filters that you got to swap fairly often.
Yeah, I don't know that there would be a viable option. Like I said, unless you could, make your own. Like Steve said, I mean, there are some folks out there that I believe could do it, but it wouldn't. I wouldn't trust it to be like for a sealed environment. You're going to need something like commercial. Let's see what else we got going on. Boy, I got hit with some comments real fast right there.
So here's one of the next ones there. I was wondering why the laser dot and the ComGrow appear to be a rectangle and not a dot.
All of them are pretty much rectangles, correct?
Yeah, the diode, the diodes are actually square, and then as they combine them together, they sometimes are aligned next to each other or slightly overlapping. And so on a diode laser, you're always going to end up having a square focus point rather than a more of a round one that you'll get with the like your CO2s and such. So that's not abnormal. That is normal. Which some people would complain about that because it's going to give you abnormal kerf and while cutting, and that is true. But the fine point that these get down to, if you're at that level of detail, you're doing some pretty impressive work. The biggest issue I would see is on these higher power ones that might be almost double in length one direction opposed to the other, and doing things like inlays or marquetry type stuff that could cause a bigger issue where you have some offsetting gaps and such. But not something to be worried about on a diode.
Yeah, like I said, if any of the machines, if you raise them high enough out of focus, you can actually start to see the shape. Some of them are like, the width and the height are the same. Some of them are a little odd, like rectangular shaped. It just depends on the machines. But yeah, they pretty much any diodes you're going to get, it's going to be either square or rectangular. Some of the really fine ones are square, but I have seen a couple of them that kerf, like Steve pointed out in his kerf video the other day, depending on which way your machine is traveling, some lasers, your kerf is going to be wider on one axis than it is on the other, depending on the way the laser diode operates. Super Duty, I have no idea, man. Like I said, Megan over at the Phoenix, she made it. I have no idea what she did to it. It was interesting, but I don't know how she did it.
Man's wondering about a jig setup for the Sculpin S30 20 watt.
I don't have an S30 to make one with. Do you?
I have the 5 watt version built, and I have the 20 watt that is hopefully going to get assembled soon. Yes. So once I have that, we can talk.
I was supposed to say, if you got one, if you got one,
we'll get you the measurements that you can get that out there. Yep.
Roger. Let's see what else we got. Jack's got a Okay, there we go.
Kent's wondering about a recommendation for a cost-effective laser that will primarily be used for cutting material around a 1/4 inch. Here's my caveat. It depends on the type of material.
Define affordable.
Well, and define affordable. But and this is something I try to caution people about. No 2 1/4 inch materials are going to cut the same. One will be almost impenetrable. And this can be true of just different types of plywood or hardwoods versus softwoods and such. So it would really kind of help to know a little more what type of material. That being said, you should be able to do it with a 10 watt, but with the advent of 20 and even higher wattage lasers coming out, I think the 20 watt is kind of if you're looking at time versus cost, and the fact that you can get some 20 watts for about what, $800 to $900 on the low end.
Yeah, on some of the cheaper models like the Creality and the Comgrow, I mean, you can get down in there.
Yeah. I mean, I think even the Atom Stack and such is down there, give or take. It depends on the time of year you buy it too. But
yeah,
if I was looking at doing a lot of 1/4 inch material, if I was doing 1/4 inch material, I'd probably be looking at a 20 watt. 10 watt will do it. It's just going to take longer, and you're going to probably have more passes and probably deal with a little more, overburn and char type stuff. But
now I will say this, that Asmer over there, and you can hang on. Whew. Dust today. I swept in here today. At Asmer, and you can back me up when you get yours, but if they make a 20 watt model, and they use the same setup and configuration they did on this guy, you're going to be shocked at the cutting ability. I can't wait till you get it to see if your material, if your cut findings are the same as mine, because this thing, it's impressing me on cutting ability and engraving and everything. So, I don't know. I got to look at the specs to figure out exactly what they did differently. I think it's because they've got a lot finer dot, and the light's concentrated. Even though it's 10 watts, it's concentrated to a point to where it actually penetrates better. I think that's what's going on. But man, it is it's surprising me so far. And I had never heard of this company. And you can't find it on Amazon. The only place you can find the machine is on their website right now. But some people were asking me if it was available, and it is available on their website, but that's not going to be a U.S. shipment. I mean, it's going to be shipping from overseas.
Yeah, and he mentioned there it's mostly plywood. So definitely with plywood, I'd want to go with the 20 watt. When you've got variations in glue, variations in the cores, depending on the type of plywood, you can find some decent plywood that's lighter weight. That still cuts pretty nice, or you can get some really nasty stuff that has glue layers that will just drive you nuts, because it'll cut through one spot and it'll just char in another. So
yeah, I can. Kent, I actually got the editing done today. I've got it uploaded. It's doing some. I'm probably gonna go ahead and my preliminary, which basically is just 48 hours in, what I think about it. That one should be out in the morning once everything processes. But I've got a couple of projects that I'm going to do. I picked up some. Let me grab a piece of it to show you guys. Now I paid way more than I wanted to for this stuff but I saw it. I was looking for some tile. I was looking for some tile to do, and I saw this stuff, and I was like, you know what? That's actually going to be pretty cool. And it's they call it oyster. What's it called? Oyster gray tile, but it's actually a piece of glass, looks like right there, but it's got like a white background. So, just like you guys are, I saw this and I was like, you know what? That's I could probably engrave the back side of it and do it like a mirror and get a pretty cool engrave. So I'm gonna try this. I just hadn't figured out what I'm gonna put on it yet, but I'm gonna do it with either one of these two machines that I've got in to play with, just to see what it'll do. I'm guessing Steve's got a piece of it somewhere.
I was actually getting ready for this one. So Brian's asking about this Lowe's plywood, and I had to travel to our other campus we don't have a Lowe's in town here. We have one in, it's about 45 minutes away.
Camera.
We used to have a Lowe's. It was great. I had Lowe's, Home Depot, had Menards, Fleet Farm. I had a lot of options, but Lowe's was in the wrong spot and they closed up. But they have this 5mm plywood, and it's kind of a poplar based. And on one side, it's kind of this tan yellow color. On the other side, it's a little more red, but the surface of it is all smooth. There's no knots. It's not finished, but it's sanded. And this was a 4x8 sheet that I think it was, after tax, it was right around $30. And so I bought a sheet of it while I was over on our other campus in the neighborhood, and thought I'd bring it home and try it out. So I've been playing with it. It actually engraves decently through that top layer. Now this, don't mind this X, because that's just a graphic, and their X is green, and that's kind of how it came out. And it cuts pretty well too. So I did a box video, making boxes and such. And so it cut through all this pretty well. A nice little.
How many layers is that? I see it's ply, but how many layers?
It's 3 primary layers and then a really thin veneer. I don't know if I can get that to focus on there.
Yeah, but that's basically what I use. So a little bit. The layers are a little different on that, but I've got some of that you have there. Yeah,
Brian, you're right. This is the 5mm Revolution ply. So it's supposed to be a sustainably sourced, no exotic woods and such. And so I went to Home Depot here in town and picked up their equivalent, and this is their underlayment stuff, which has a lot more voids and other things in it. But it cuts similarly to this stuff. Engraves a little bit better, I think. So I'm playing around with more of your typical big box store stuff. I'm actually probably going to pick up some stuff from Menards. I know that's more regional here in the Midwest, but they have a few different options, from an underlayment that looks a little more clean than the stuff at Home Depot. They have a 1/4 inch sanded, and they also have what they call a Baltic. It's not Baltic birch, but it's a tiger ply birch but it's like 5 layer. It's not the 3 layer stuff. So our local Menards there was one other underlayment, but they don't stock it here, which I was disappointed in, because that's what I was going to try to pick up the other day. But yeah, I'm playing around with some of this, and maybe I'll try to put together a video, because I want to cut it on both some 20 and 10 watt lasers and kind of get an idea and a feel for it, to see if there's something that's more standard, or at least here in the US, that people can look for, maybe what to expect out of it.
Yeah, like I said, this is that underlayment. This is that 10 watt that I've got in, and as you can see, guys, I mean, this thing is slaying 4.9mm material. My camera's going crazy, but that's a 10 watt machine, single pass, and it does just as well on the engraving, believe it or not. So I couldn't get it. It stayed so. Yeah, it stayed dark. I was like, where's the light colors at? And I went all the way up to 130 speed, and it still stayed dark. This thing, like I said, I'm gonna keep playing with it. I'm probably gonna do a 20, like 20 by 20 gradient, to see if I can get it to tone down and give me some shading. But that's using my standard ply. Super Duty, Jeff. I've got this stuff that I got from Home Depot, and I played around with it. I think it's the same stuff that Steve has. Hang on.
Now, is that the 1/4 inch sanded stuff?
Yes, and this is a lot stronger, a lot thicker. It comes in like the 2x4 sheets over in the hobby section, and it's right next to the MDF and stuff.
So does it have like a nice clean face, and then maybe a little more?
Yeah, I'd have to say that this side's a little better, but both sides are sanded. Both sides are sanded, though.
Yeah. So that's another one I've tried, and honestly, I think for what this is compared to their underlayment, I like this better. That the 1/4 inch sanded versus the underlayment. It's a little bit thicker.
Yeah.
and I think it takes a little more time to cut because doesn't it have, is that a poplar or an MDF cord? I think it's poplar. So yeah, no. So that's a good option.
Yeah.
I really miss, I used to be able to order 5x5 sheets of Baltic birch, 1/8 stuff, and I was getting it at the dealer rate of, I think the cheapest I paid was $7.50 a sheet, or a 5-foot square sheet back in the day. This is, pre-COVID, when I was doing a bunch of that stuff for model airplane stuff. Those days are long gone.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I'm trying to find a good, just general purpose testing and crafting plywood.
But yeah, the stuff that I use most of the time, I get here locally. There's a little store, that camera. I'm sorry, guys. I'm trying to keep it on me, but it keeps moving. The stuff that I use is a little store that's here locally, and I try to support them when I can and buy most of my materials there. But like some of the specialty stuff and some of the MDF and stuff like that, I can't get here locally, so I have to drive to Prattville, which is probably a good 35-minute ride from here to the nearest Home Depot. And that's where I get some of the other stuff. Now, I do generally start making, I usually make about one trip a week down to Home Depot because there's always something I need to buy. But I try to keep most of my business here in town if I can use what I can buy here just to support, small businesses.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You'd be surprised at some of the deals those smaller hardware stores and such will make you on things too. We've got some smaller towns around here that, like where my model airplane club is, there's a small town in between here and there, and they've got a couple of nice hardware stores that they're nice to go to and such. So I try to support them as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because I can go into my local hardware store and I have a business account with them because I buy so much stuff. They set me up a business account, and so there's some things that they kind of take a little of the markup off of for me, so I get a little cheaper rate than I can at other places. But then there's some things, that their cost on it is so high that I pay their normal cost. But they do that to keep me from spending the extra money and driving to Home Depot. And so I try to repay them by bringing as much of my business as I can up to their place. And it works out good for both of us because I'll go in there and buy a truckload of, 1/4-inch plywood. I think me and my buddy Klein, I think are the only two people buying that stuff from them, but they keep stocking it. So
there you go.
Oh man, we need to do a MythBusters on this. We really do. We need to do a video on no, no, it is not going to kill it. All right.
So,
do you want to go first? Or you want me to?
Well, here's the thing. It's rooted in a couple different things. Part of it is, yes, CO2s, but even that, what it all comes down to is cheap manufacturing, both on CO2s and diodes. When you get into a cheap CO2 laser, they're just throwing components together. They're not necessarily matching them. And it's very easy to overdrive a CO2 powered tube. If you go, over their milliamp rating, you go over their temperature rating, they're going to burn out really quickly. And so that's where this whole thing of you don't want to run a CO2 laser at over 80% power came from. And my firsthand experience with that is with my, eBay bought 60-watt CO2 laser I've had for about 7 years now. And that's true. It originally came with a 60-watt power supply. It originally came with what was really more of a 50-watt tube. And so at the time, if I ran that over probably about 75%, I was overdriving the tube and it was gonna die early. I then did put an actual 60-watt tube in it, and now I can run it up to 82%, and that's basically running it at 100% of what you should run it at. So if the machine was matched properly, so that 100% of its power didn't drive the tube higher than the 21 milliamps it's rated at, then I could run that at 100% as long as my water was, temperatures in spec and that it was doing the regular maintenance on it. Same thing with diode lasers. When diode lasers first came out, they were kind of throwing cheap components in there and they weren't doing proper cooling. They weren't doing enough of, balancing the controller to the diodes that if you ran them at high power, you would easily burn them out. They've gotten better at manufacturing them, and this is why you might want to look at more of a established laser manufacturer. There's people that come out with these all the time. You're like, I've never heard of them. Random place, they only offer one laser. They probably figured they could put these together cheap and make some money quick on them, versus the people like the Sculpt Funds, the Atom Stack, the Artours, the X Tools, places like that have developed them over a number of years. They've got a little more reputation at stake, and they should be balancing them better. Yes, the running them at 100% is probably going to introduce more heat and such, but if you keep the thing clean and you regularly clean out not only your frame and your lens, but actually get some air through the module itself, get the dust off of there. The important thing is to keep that the designed air cooling in place, and you shouldn't running it at 100% isn't necessarily going to make it die that much faster than running it at 80%. Now, you could get into other parts of electronics where these are really, they control the power by switching them on and off at high rates of frequency. And so they're really running at full power in short bursts. And so the components that control those bursts, when you run it at a lower power, they're actually having to work harder to restrict that power to the laser. So basically what I'm saying is,
throw another curve on it?
Basically, I guess what I'm saying, and then I'll let you throw this in there because I'll talk forever on a while. If you maintain it by cleaning the module, keeping the dust out of it, and if you have proper airflow so that less of the smoke and debris gets cycled back in through the laser, that's going to do a lot more to keep the longevity of your laser than running it at too low of a power. People that are worried about it, I suggest stick around maybe 80-85%. That'll give you a little bit more length on your laser as far as lifespan. Not a whole lot, but it's going to keep you away from the absolute high power of it. But keep regular maintenance schedule on that. Make sure your airflow is moving through your enclosure properly. That's going to do a lot more to prolonging the lifespan of your laser. Now you can throw your curveball.
Here's a twist for you, Steve. I understand that maybe people think that by running the laser at a lower output, it will save the diode. But if you run it at a lower speed, then you're having to make more passes, which is in essence increasing the wear on the bearings and the steppers. So, what good's the diode if you wear your bearings and your steppers out before the diode wears out? So, in my opinion, like you said, keep it clean and let that baby go. Let it run. Because the life expectancy of these things is like 100,000 hours. So if you shorten that by 10%, it's still going to outlive its usefulness, because by the time you wear it out, they're going to have a machine that's way better. I just don't think it's reasonable. Does it affect longevity of the diode? Possibly, but it's kind of like trying to get, if you had an original iPhone that you just kept and you didn't get it, you didn't damage it or whatever, you would have already traded that guy in and got an iPhone 13 or something. So I think there's you have to consider that,
The cell phone companies would have disabled it before then. We actually had that at work on some iPhone 6s. They said, sorry, we're no longer going to support this protocol. But yes, no.
Eventually Lightburn's going to be like, we don't, you got to think lasers are evolving at such a fast pace. When I first got into it a little over a year ago, the 10 watt was that was the talk of the town in diodes. And now here we are, we got 40s, even talk of more powerful than 40s coming out. So, you're not gonna wear it out before you get ready to buy another one.
No, yeah, you got 10,000 hours of life on that, and I look at it one of two ways. Are you a hobbyist who occasionally uses it? Good luck hitting that mark. If you're doing it for business, I'm going to go with the productivity and the possible, higher machine wear, because the productivity and getting the product out faster is going to outweigh the minor, over 10,000 hours and or whatever. I would go for the productivity over the cost savings of the machine. And again, I think it's, having the rest of your setup working properly, and yeah, Jeff, the X tool enclosure, it's tough to get that proper airflow through there. I see a lot of people who buy them to get started, and then they go, I'm going to build my custom one. And then that's great. That's why they're there. I mean, the ComGrow enclosures, the Sculpt funds, any of them, if for nothing else, that 70, 80 or more expensive ComGrow one, I mean, not ComGrow, but X-Tool one is better than nothing as far as containing the smoke and keeping you safe and healthy. But as you start using it more, you kind of learn what you want in it and how you would improve it. I mean, you look at Clack's enclosure and even mine, we've coming up with ways that we're going to change this and improve it. So,
yeah. But one more thing, and you hit on it, Steve, but I want to stress this to folks. If you think that slowing your laser down is going to save, longevity, I ask of you, if you're doing a job, take that extra time before you do the job to clean the machine thoroughly, make sure it's breathing good, then run it faster. And in my opinion, if you spend that extra time cleaning your machine, it's going to do you more good than if you slow it down or if you power it down. I've got an X-Tool D1 10 watt that does not have the little protective cover on it that I can promise you, if I wish they put a mile gauge on these things to where you could tell how many miles the laser had moved, but that thing supported my business by itself entirely for the first 6 months. And it's still just as powerful as it was the day I got out of the box. Now it looks a lot rougher because it's been used a lot, but I don't see it. And I know there's a lot of guys out there harping on that, oh, don't run it at 100%, but show me the science to where it makes any significant difference, and I'd be shocked. Pleasure. Hey, I'm right the opposite. I'm going to run mine at 100% because I want to get done faster. Because time is money. If I can do 3 jobs in the time that it normally takes to do 2, then I just made an extra bonus for that hour. I take and run 100%, and I adjust my speed accordingly to have the desired effect. And that's unless it's some material that can't take 100%. Starting to rain again. All right. Super Duty says he's borrowing stuff from me and you both. he's gonna make a Clack Shack Ventari's hybrid.
That's when I first put up my video on my enclosure, that's really what it was. It was just, here's what I did, here's some inspiration, I'll go build yours, and that's what I hoped for it to be. But then there was a lot of people who wanted the actual cut files and instructions, so I put them together, and that's helped a lot of people. But really, I did it to try to inspire some people with some ideas. So along those lines of established, here's Eric's asking specifically me, but you've got good experience with this as well. Would ComGrow fit into established lasers? They've got their, what is it? It's the ComGrow ComGo Z1. The weird naming scheme on that. But that's kind of their only laser that I'm aware of. And then they came out with the module, but that's kind of a rebranded. And I think, I don't know. I think they're a budget company that they resell other lasers and CNC machines as well. They have in the past supported things well, but they've also had some turnover of people. And I haven't seen anything new from them in the laser world in a while. Other than they came out with the 20, and it's, I don't know, I haven't seen much from them.
I think they're just flying a different name. I'll be honest with you. If you go to ComGrow's website, let me make sure I'm being correct on this, but ComGrow and Creality are like, if they're not brother and sister companies, I don't know what. Because if you go to comgrow.com right now, there's Comgrow 3D printers and Creality 3D printers. So I'm pretty sure both of these are probably either made in the same factory or run by the same company. But I think they're just rebranding because they had such success with the Creality brand, with the 3D printers. And I think that's where that's going. Because like I said, some of the stuff that both of them make is it's kind of amazing to see that you got Creality printers on the Comgrow webpage. So I think they've moved their machine line over to the Creality now. That's just my opinion. I don't know, can't confirm that, but I think that's what's happening. I think that's where this Falcon that I've got, the module's performing remarkably like that Comgrow 20-aught upgrade that I had. And if you look at the testing I did with the results, it's almost identical. Like, I mean, it's so I think they're just doing a little bit of rebranding. But,
yeah, maybe.
But yeah. But did you see what I'm saying? Did you look at their page to where it shows? You go to comgrow.com and it's Comgrow, Creality. They're all like intertwined. So
yeah, well, I mean, they've been reselling the Creality 3D printers for a while. There's a lot of people who, rebrand or have their own kind of line along those, the Enders and the Crealities. So hard to say on the 3D printer ones. I do see I think they dropped their CNC. I don't think you can buy a CNC router from them anymore. So
yeah, I'm not seeing it on our website either. But yeah, that's just like I said, and I could be wrong, but I do like the Falcon. I'll say that it's pretty advanced for a laser.
Yeah, Creality, the primary companies, they've done a lot with 3D printers, and so I'm not surprised they came out with a decent laser. But yeah, I mean,
yeah,
if someone wants a budget 10-watt laser, the Comgrow Z1's great. It's a little bit smaller working area than some, but for the price, you get a lot of the features you'll want in a decent running laser. I mean, you ran one for a number of months before you got the 20
I mean, it's still being used. I'm just not necessarily the one using it. But it's a good solid machine, and that's what you got to look at, guys. A lot of these machines, just because it's on a budget doesn't necessarily mean that it's not a good machine. Like the Comgrow Z1, that thing, I never really had any problems with it. Did it have a lot of the extra bells and whistles? No, it was pretty much a bare bones machine. But if you have a family member or if you're wanting to get into lasers and you really don't want to drop a whole lot of money, you can get the basic principles, the effectiveness of having a laser without having to chop off an arm. And so that's where I tell people all the time when they message me, hey, what would be a good starter machine for me? My first question is, one, do you know you want to do this? And if so, what is your budget? Because, if you don't know, then I would suggest you get the cheapest one you can find. And if in 2 weeks you're ready to throw it out a window, then you can get your money back relatively easy. But I got a buddy, my buddy Klein, I don't know if he's still in here or not, but I've been handing off machines to him and training him on how to use them. And he started with the Atom Stack little tripod deal back there, the P9 M40. And now he's enjoying himself a LM3 with a 20-watt module on it. So it just depends on what you're wanting to do. Like I said, you're not going to get the productivity out of a 10 or a 5-watt that you would a 20, but the principles are the same. If you can learn one, you can learn them all. But I consider Comgrow an established company. I mean, some of these companies are pop up and go, but Comgrow's been around for 2 or 3 years that I'm aware of. So,
yeah, they've been around for a little while. And I guess counterpoint to not developing anything recently, some of these companies seem to develop stuff too fast. They're just constantly coming out with something new, and that can be just as frustrating, especially if they're not working the bugs out on them, or it's causing some customer support issues and such. But I think there's definitely a balance on there. But Ortur is the same way. They tend to take their time on developing and coming out with things, but they're very well established. So
Yeah, somebody said Comgrove's 20-watt module looks a lot like X-Tool module. That is, I don't know about anybody else, but that is very common, I think, with lasers and with especially with the Chinese companies. Is if somebody has a good idea, they a lot of them will come around and you'll see that they share a lot of the same characteristics, because they're like, hey, that's that works. And the evolution of pretty much anything is going to be whatever works and works best. Everybody's going to kind of migrate to it. So that's just like this new Asmer I got. I don't know about y'all, but I get tired of the little plastic cards, having to slide that under my machine to focus. But they've put a kickstand on this Asmer that looks just like a Comgrove Z1 module, but it's got a kickstand on it. And so when they see things that people like, they're going to migrate towards those. So eventually they're all going to look the same, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, they're all going to be fairly similar. As a matter of fact, if you look for the laser tree module, that will look very similar to the Comgrow module.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I like when they take ideas from each other and build on them, not necessarily outright steal them and such. But
yeah,
I saw an interesting CNC machine yesterday that came out from SaneSmart that people are kind of nicknaming the Minifinity because it looks like a miniature Onefinity in many ways. It's not a complete copy, of course, but they did a lot to make it look very similar and build very similar and whatnot with a twist on it. Not sure what I feel about that, but
yeah,
it does look like a great machine. It's about a $600 machine. It's a 400 by 400 millimeter working area. And I think it sells right now. You can get an early bird deal for right around $500 and some dollars. It's for someone wanting to get into one, that'd be a great way to go. But there again, was it inspired or was it stolen? So
yeah. I just like Philip here. Philip's kind of like myself. He said he got him a Creality Falcon, the 10-watt, learned a lot, and then made enough money to get him an Atom Stack X30, which is the 36-watt. And so he's got the extension kit and picked them up. So, I mean, that's what it's all about for me. I mean, if you got a hobby and you can make a little money at it, then you can upgrade your gear. That's what I'm constantly doing. Kind of like upgrading the network here, so y'all guys don't think you need glasses or whatever. But yeah, the evolution of everybody's, what works for you, that's just kind of what you got to figure out. But there's a lot of good machines out there, and a lot of them, like forgot who it was that said it a while ago. Chris says is a lot of times you can get the clones or the similar machines, you can get those a lot faster because there's not as much demand. And sometimes you can get a better price and it's a lot of the same technology. I'm not going to say it's exactly the same, but it's a lot of the same technology. So you there, Eric. But I tell you, I can't wait to get this Asmer. I wish they would just name one Bob or something. I can't wait to get this Asmer to try this thing out, man. I don't want to brag on it too much because I'm afraid it's gonna like go up in flames or something. But it's impressed me for a 10-watt. I'm kind of curious if they sell a 20-watt. But I've got that video done. It should be out in the morning. But everybody, if you haven't, I'm gonna try to drop it into the group here. If you haven't already and you're not a member, go on over and check us out. I'm gonna need to drop that link in the in the chat. Let me find that link. But you got it on there. Okay. Yep. I put it up there, but it didn't. It just throw it up. But that's where everybody's sharing. You share what you've done, your projects. It's just kind of a hangout place for all of us. So if you haven't joined the page, Steve said he dropped the link down there below, and go over there and check it out. And of course, if you haven't found Steve or myself on Facebook yet, go ahead and knock that out and go like those pages because it does help support us. And we're trying to get Well, Jack, we're trying to get a good enough following. Jack, if you'll go look in that group we just posted, the plans are in there, but it's not I didn't do the entire thing because it's just a lot of work, but the basic design is in there. Matter of fact, I guess since this is our live, I could go get I could go grab that, drop that link in here right quick. If you'll hang around for a minute there, Jack, I'll go get that link out of the group. Files.
Yeah, Jeff was talking about the Rolly machines, and I've seen some stuff on them, and they look interesting. Like Chris mentioned, they assemble and test each one before shipping, which is great. But yeah, I'm wondering how long they can keep that up and keep the price competitive. It looks like a really nice machine with about every feature you'd want on them. But yeah, I think they're limited in availability right now, so it's hard to get a hold of them if you haven't gone ahead and ordered from them already. So
yeah, I've heard some people talking about that machine, but I haven't really sat down and looked at it yet. Steve will probably have one at his shop before too long. Steve's getting some good stuff lately.
Well, I've had people, talking to me about things, and some things in shipment. I get a little worried here that they're all going to show up some Wednesday, and they're all going to be like, "Okay, you got it. Are you going to use it now and get that video out right away?" And like, well, y'all sent them to me the same day. I can't do that. So
yeah, that's the way it happens over here. Is everybody's like, "I'm going to send you this, send you this, send you this," and then all of a sudden they show up.
Yeah.
There is the that's the file that I've got so far, guys. I just dropped it on Google Drive so y'all can snag it. But that's for Enclosure Zilla. That's the basic dimensions and layout of it. Depending on how you set the lift up, your partition in there may need to be higher or lower than mine. So I didn't really put that in there because I did use magnets between the lift and the honeycomb and everything. And so depending on how you do that, yours may need to be higher or lower. So I left that part out of the group, but out of the blueprint.
So I have seen some. I haven't messed with any of them, but I have seen some people create some options for the Z1's module, and that would be probably one of my biggest complaints about the ComGirl one. Is I like that the screws are on the side and they're not biting into like a dovetail joint like some of the others, but there's 4 of them, and that's annoying. So yeah, I haven't looked at changing that out on mine at all. But I've looked at a few. The ones, so not your new ASMR, however that's called. That's got a knob on top, right?
Yes.
For doing your adjustment.
Yes.
That I think is awesome.
Yeah, it's got
How's
a
it actually
knob
working?
and the kickstand. Yeah, it's got a knob and a kickstand. And like I said, I got the video. It'll be out in the morning, but just a sneak peek, guys. This thing, a lot of times, those knobs, depending on how well they're bearinged or whatever, they get a little slop in them, so that it'll allow it to drop or raise, on its own. But so far, this one, like I said, it's got the kickstand, so you just drop the kickstand, twist it until the kickstand touches, flip the kickstand back up, and you're good to go. So I do like that. And you can tell they put some thought into this machine. So I'm very happy with that, and it seems to be working good so far. Somebody was asking me about the lift that I used in my enclosure. There's all the parts that I ordered. There's links in the description of that video of Enclosure Zilla right there. So any part that you see on there, the link should be in there for you. Jack,
I 100% agree with this statement right now. Sculpt Fun puts screws on the back, and they're tiny. And yeah, they're behind the module. They're tiny, and I believe the 20 watt not only has most of them have 2, but the 20 watt has 4. So yeah.
4 screws to focus.
Yeah, they're four screws that lock it into the bracket, but they're on the back. At least the Comgro ones are on the side.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's annoying. Yeah, the one from Alive Pixel looks really nice. He's got some nice mods, especially for the X tool, and he's another. Well, yeah, I guess he's Western South Dakota, but I'll consider him Midwest. Um, he's got some great mods for the X tool that take away some of those pain points as well, and he's got that adjustable Z-axis with the knob on top.
All right, I'll be right back. Everybody's asking. I can't put my secondary camera on, so give me just a second.
Oh, you're gonna make me come down there with a camera, huh?
Well, next time I'm putting my secondary camera in before you start throwing every camera in the shop on there.
I added 2.
Let's see how this is going to work. Good night. This is kind of big. All right, look up. Quit moving, camera.
Here, let's do this.
Quit moving.
Whoops, wrong one.
Oh, that didn't help, Steve. You just hid me. You gotta drag it, and drop it. Drag the little one. There you go.
One of these right there. We go.
Let me see if I can get this up here. God, this is tough without my GoPro. Let me see if I can set it down this way. Maybe this works. All right, so this is the little knob, and it turns one way is up, one way is down, but it does have the little kickstand right back here on the back, and it's got magnets that hold it up or down, and similar to some of the other machines. But the little knob is actually really fine. It's got good bearings in it so that it actually has a little bit of a friction hold and it doesn't just fall. So I'm liking it. I'm liking it so far. It's a cool looking machine. Look at that laser or plasma cut lettering right there. It's pretty nice. But y'all can yeah, it came with the drag chains. The drag chain was already on there. I did add a airline, but the drag chain was already there. But the video should be out in the morning once I get a chance to go sit down and build a thumbnail and make sure I didn't do anything I didn't need to in the video. So, all right. Woo! Hey, you could have let me have the whole screen. That'd been fine. But yeah, I gotta get next time I gotta let me see if it'll let me put it. It may let me put it in there now. I doubt it. It's gonna be like sad face. Look. Just give me the sad face, Steve. I wish I could show you. It's just got like a little sad face. It says you've reached the maximum limit of 2 extra cameras. Oh, I wonder how long until Enclosure Zilla makes it. I mean, it already has, Chris. It's hang on here. It's right. Stand by. I gotta move my TV around. Oh, hang on. Let me make this bigger, Steve. Oh, wrong box. There it is. It already has. There it is right there. But yeah. But yeah. The Enclosure is it's been in a lot of videos, and like I said, look, we're on opposite sides now. That's gonna mess with me. Oh, okay, cool. But Jack said he's going to duplicate my efforts.
Well, that's a good Enclosure.
Yeah, Super Duty. The machine build so far, and like I said, I don't want to talk too good about it because it'll blow up next time I use it. But so far, other than that, so you remember the software glitch you had with the Acer, Steve, to where you were about ready to throw it out the window. Yeah, I had that with this one and had to go in and reprogram the controller. But once I figured it out, it's worked great since. But Klein was over here with me, and it done got to the point where he was like afraid to talk because you know how you can get mad, and so he was just like he didn't want to say anything because he could tell I was getting mad at it. But it took me probably an hour and a half or 2 to figure out what was wrong in the controller settings, but I got it worked out. Now that thing runs like a champ. Here we go. There's your one.
Is it the same color of powder coating? Because that can have an effect on it. But and powder coating, depending on the quality of the application, can be thicker or thinner. So the brand could have some inconsistencies to it, but generally you're going to get pretty close on them. But with the diodes, the color will affect it, and you may have to change that a bit. The only other thing is if you've got some sort of buildup getting on your lens, or I've had it where blasting material off that. If you have the air assist cone and you don't have enough air pressure on it, it starts collecting on there and it'll flat up, seal it up.
And let's don't forget too, with powder coat, especially if you're getting these things in bulk. I think he's saying that the brand is TAL is the name of the cups. It could be an inconsistency in manufacturing to where one cup has a thicker coat of powder coat on it than the other one did, or like Steve said, a difference in the pigment, because color reflectivity does affect how efficient that the blue diode is going to cut through there. So that would be my guesses. Yeah, people look, Steve. So you get compliments, and I get called OCD. But yeah, it does mess me up because I'm used to seeing myself here, and if I'm here, yeah. So yeah, there's an order to things, guys. You can't tell by looking at my shop that I'm a little OCD. I can't help it. Hey, did you tell everybody that we may have an IRL meeting here before long, Steve?
I think we hinted at it, but no, I was actually booking more things. I am definitely heading to southwestern Georgia here at the end of April for a model airplane event, and it just so happens that it's a fine little community called Clanton, Alabama, is along the way, and so yeah, we're going to try to meet up, and it might actually even be on a Sunday, so we'll see how that works out.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And I even thought about riding over there and crashing the party in Georgia with you for a little while, see what that was all about, just to give you some company. But we'll see.
Yeah. Well, I just booked because I keep kind of changing my mind on how I wanted. Normally, I've been traveling down with some friends. So yeah, Philip, I'm going back to Seth. I haven't been there in a number of years, but I normally travel down there with a group of people, but this time there's 3 of us, and I'm the solo guy. So I've been toying with, driving down, hitting hotels. I've been looking at some campers. We sold our pop-up camper, but I've been looking at either renting or borrowing one, possibly dragging that with. Everybody does the van life thing, but that just seems kind of weird. I don't know. Plus, I got to haul a bunch of airplane stuff with me too. So, but yeah, I'm definitely going to be making an effort to swing by the Clack Shack, check it out, see Enclosure Zilla myself.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to try to work something out. Like I said, we got a little while between now and then, so we'll figure out what all is going to go on. But we're gonna do something. We can't just let an opportunity like that go to waste. I really was hoping Steve would be able to stay for a while and maybe put him on a sawmill, see if he's got any sawmilling skills or something. But it may just be a short time. Nah, Norbert, I don't have a pop-up camper, but I got a buddy that's got pop-ups and RVs and stuff. So that was not my pop-up. My wife would not have approved.
At least that's the story that he's sticking to.
Oh, no, it's not mine. Trust me. I know better. She's done told me, my wife, I do want a camper, and I'm going to get one eventually, the closer I get to retirement. But my problem right now is I don't take enough time off, because if I'm not working at the PD, I'm doing stuff here, or I'm working or going to ball games with my daughter. So right now, a camper would just sit out there and require maintenance and require upkeep, and that's not something I need currently. Now, fast forward about 3 years, and things may change. I may go get with Super Duty there and go ride around in his portable workshop / RV that he has. So no, Chris, it's not that I don't get along with them. My wife has a rule that she doesn't go outside to use the bathroom, and if it doesn't have a bathroom, she ain't staying in it. So that's basically pop-ups are out of the question. She says she has to have indoor plumbing.
There are some pop-ups that have a bathroom shower. They're
yeah,
pretty
but
weird.
Usually you have to sit in the shower to use the bathroom and shower on the toilet. So
yeah, and your walls, if
not,
any, are fabric.
yeah, she's not into that. She's not into that. But yeah, Super Duty, you've inspired me with your car hauler converted into a workshop. I think that may be my route. We'll see. What kind of pocket knife do I carry? Well, it depends. Depends on the occasion. If I'm working in the Clack Shack, I got me a little cheap DeWalt right here because I tear them up, and I pick these up at Tractor Supply. But every situation dictates. I also have window punches and seatbelt cutters on ones that I wear when I'm at work. So it just depends on what I'm doing. But I've always got one. But laser cutting around circle.
Here's one that was before that too. News fans asking about options for limit switches on the original X-Tool D1. It's difficult when trying to use absolute coordinates. Yeah, that can make it. So you got a couple options. You can get, I think there's a couple people that have, there's a jig that you can attach to the corner of your X-Tool, and you need to manually place that in that jig for your starting coordinates each time. And that's kind of the poor man's way to do it. Otherwise, I believe Colby Schmidt has I think he calls it the Devil 1 mod that swaps out a lot of the parts, adds limit switches and some of these other features that you'd like on it. It's a little more involved. It's not necessarily just here plug and play. So you want to be okay with probably swapping out your motherboard on your laser and mounting some things. But that's a way that he's added limit switches to the original D1, and he sells that as a kit. I don't recall how expensive it is though. But those would be the two things. Other thing you could do is the first time you start it up, you can put it back in that corner, and then instead of having it home each time, you can set up Lightburn at least to tell it to go to a specified coordinate at the end of the job. And then as long as you don't move anything, it's going to still know that that's where it's starting from, and then move to your absolute coordinates after that. So I do that on most of my lasers. Instead of having it home, I'll have it go to like 10 to 20 millimeters off the back left corner, so it gets the head out of the way, but it's also not having to rehome each time. So, and even on my D1, my Pro X-Tool, I have it do that rather than home too many times. So, how about you? Got any recommendations for that?
Yeah, I just dropped a video. I actually did a video on this very thing, and the name of it was "Do you need limit switches to use a jig?" And yes, limit switches make it better, but you don't have to have them. Matter of fact, the machine that I'm using in the video to demonstrate is a pre-pro. It's just a standard D1 10 watts, my original machine, and it just kind of shows you how to go about it. The biggest thing is slow down your framing speed, and it's actually got a pretty consistent home. Considered it doesn't have limit switches. But like Steve said, I also set up my machine to have a return to location that is out of my work area, and keeps it from having to constantly rehome between burns. When you're doing mass production stuff, you really don't want to you want to limit the number of times you have to home, because the more you home, the more risk of a mess up there is. So.
And on that Devil 1, Jeff says it's not actually a motherboard swap but a bypass. That's good to know. It's a little bit easier than that, but that would give you those options for adding them. But yeah, like you said, they're not needed, but they do make it easier.
Yeah.
Bam's asking about laser not cutting round circles.
Belts.
That's the first thing I check is mechanical issues. So make sure that your belts are tight, not too tight, and even. From there, you might want to check your calibration. So you'd want to see a nice way to check this is cut like a 1-inch square, and then measure it. Make sure that both sides are even, that they're both coming out at pretty close to 1 inch. You're going to lose a little bit from your kerf if you have an offset for that. But if it's off in one direction or other, then obviously your circles are going to be off in that same direction. And then you can do some calibration through most of them, at least through Lightburn and such. You can do a calibration if you're using a third-party tool. Not all of them necessarily have that, but then you can either do that or you can do it through Gerbil commands to kind of adjust the steps per, be steps per millimeter, steps per inch kind of is what it's relating to. It's telling the stepper drivers how much to turn and how that equates into an inch or a millimeter. So that would be the two things to check out on that. But usually it's mechanical. It's a belt or a belt or an obstruction kind of thing.
Yeah, if it's an X tool, my money is on it's either going to be the belts or the time and linkage between the two. As long as you did the install file, because typically all of those settings that would control the machine is going to be on the controller, and unless you've changed those, you should be close enough anyway. But if you'll run like 5 passes on a line, like on a square or a circle, you should see a lot of variation. And if you do, then belts and timing. Yeah, that's what Norbert's calling the grub screws. Those are the little screws that are on that linkage. It's a bar that runs from one side to the other that makes sure that those two sides are synced up together. And if one of those screws gets loose, or if that's not set correctly, it allows one side to kind of get ahead of the other one and can cause a lot of variation in your trying to maintain circles and squares and hit the same spot twice, so to speak. That's what I tell people when they call me and say, hey, I've downloaded your jig and it doesn't work. I said, send me a picture. And when I get a picture and they're trying to cut something out and they've got 3 individual lines instead of 3 passes, then I tell them, hey, you're going to need to correct your machine. But that's almost always going to be the problem when you're getting. If your circles look like eggs, then it's probably going to be belt tension or timing related.
Doing tumblers in Lightburn. Best setting from absolute coordinates, user, or current?
You got to run current with a rotary.
With a rotary, I usually will set it to. I'll either put it at the top or the bottom of my logo and run it from current, or sometimes I'll put it in center. Depends on the object. But I generally run from current position. So much easier. Definitely not absolute coordinates. I'm not even sure how you'd really figure that out on a rotary.
I mean, I'm not going to say you can't do it, but you're going to need a camera for framing that because, well, no, you can't do it with a rotary because you only have one axis. Your other axis doesn't work. So yeah,
I use current. I set it where I want it to start from, and then make sure that I've got a reference point to, whether that's center of my artwork or, bottom center or top center. Just kind of depends on the object I'm working with. That's where I usually have the best luck.
Yeah, when I get that new rotary, and I'm going to do a tumbler video. I've actually got a lady that's wanting me to do a set for a wedding. So if Adam Stack will hurry up, I can use theirs to do that video because right now I don't have a Chuck rotary. So I'm hoping that thing will get here.
That just reminded me of something.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
But let's see. Here we go. Wait a minute. Oh, Steve can talk about this one too. I'm digging having two monitors because I can do stuff on each one. It's actually nice. There you go, Steve. I'll let you go first. Science guy.
So this kind of gets into, I see a lot of people commenting on videos, especially when you get into these 20-watt and higher diode lasers, and they comment that, well, why wouldn't you just buy a CO2? You can get you can get a higher power one for less. And I will say, well, the only one you can get for less is really the K40 size. And it's a CO2, yes, it's a 40 watt, but you also have to remember you're limited to about it's a 200 by 300 millimeter, about 8 by 12 inch working area, and it's all enclosed. And you got to worry about mirrors and cooling and all that. So for me, it's really more about, as you say, if you're considering it for acrylic work, that is one of the biggest reasons you would want to get into a CO2 laser. And as long as your work fits into that smaller cutting area, it's a great machine. It's not going to take up a lot of space. It's not going to cost a lot, because really the next step up from there is 50 and 60 watt machines. And you're pretty much inching up around, I guess maybe $1,500, but you're getting closer to two grand by the time you get everything ready and assembled for that size. So it kind of takes that jump from 400 to 600 on up to about 1,500 on up. And yeah, for me, it's if someone's wanting to do a lot of acrylic work, and especially in clear or translucent colors and such, it's definitely going to be the route you're going to want to go over, any of the diodes. Anyone that's primarily doing acrylic work in diodes is going to be just frustrated. It's going to be very hit or miss, but the CO2s are shine at that. So, they do come with a little bit of a larger curve as far as learning, and there's more adjustments to get everything in line and right. And so, if you want the easy button, any K40 is not going to be your answer. You got it. The first time you go to align those mirrors because it got bumped out of alignment, you're going to start losing hair the first time you do it. I guarantee you. I've talked to a lot of people through the process and just say, you got to stick with it. You got to go slow. You can't make large moves, and just work through it. And you get better at it as you do it. But it's definitely something that can be frustrating, adding to people giving up on it. But
yeah, and I, like I said, I agree. If you're doing it, if you're getting it for acrylic, then hey, 8 by 12 or whatever it is, sheets of acrylic, that's what you're going to be using primarily for small burns, and just acrylic. It works great. That's the only reason I still have the Monport, to be honest with you. Anything else other than acrylic, I would rather do it on a diode, because wood, even tumblers and stuff like that, it's so much easier. The process is simpler. So I keep the Monport for acrylic. Now, it will do other things. I can cut wood with it, but I don't usually slice my wood into 8 by 12 pieces. And so therefore, unless it's a small burn that I'm doing on a piece of scrap, it's easier for me to go grab a diode and knock it out. But make sure if you get one that it's a light burn compatible one. That I would do.
Yeah, and
somebody's asking about my mat too. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that the other thing too is that there is a big difference jumping from a K40 up to a larger CO2 machine. The K40s are limited on their speed and their size, and so yes, you get some more power, but you can't necessarily push it into the higher speeds that can take advantage of a lot of that power with engraving. So it's a good inexpensive way to play with it and work with some acrylics. But if someone's looking at production and such, then I would definitely steer them to something larger or multiple diodes. So,
somebody's asking about my rug. So far, it's holding up nice. And it's been getting a lot of use this weekend because I've been in and out digging. It's got a lot of dirt on it and everything. But it's sitting at my back door. I'm gonna give it a couple of weeks and I'll update y'all. But so far, it's doing good. Okay, Deborah, you must have missed it. But I didn't make this. I wish I could say I did, but I didn't. I got a friend that is an artist that makes these, and she coats them with epoxy. I don't have any idea how she put the graphic on it, but it turned out really nice. But I did she reached out to me. She went to a business in town, speaking of which, that this business has a CO2 laser, and she wanted a laser engraved wooden sign. But the business, of course, because they do mostly like, like big production type jobs where there's 50 or 60 of them, they basically referred her to me. And so she came over and asked me if I could do it, or called me and asked me if I could do it. I told her I could. And so while we were talking, she told me what she did, and I saw some of her products on her Facebook page, and I asked her to make this so that I'd have me a cup for when I go places. And I don't plan on keeping this one in the shop a lot because I'm afraid I'm gonna tear it up, and it was just too cool. But for the lives and stuff, I'm gonna use it. And when I go travel or whatnot, it'll go with me as well. But it's Phoenix Gallery by Megan on Facebook is the name of her page. And she does ship. And she's got some other creative stuff that you can go look at. But she says she does ship because I asked her if people wanted to get one made, if she would ship, and she said she would. So Landon said his, I guess his mom or her mom. I don't know. I'm guessing Landon was the guy. Says they're durable. And so I said, not really my cup of tea. I wish I could engrave and make it look like that. So what else we got here? Anybody questions, comments, concerns?
Yeah,
Did you happen to make a video on how to do the mats? Yeah, actually I did.
Yeah, speaking of traveling and diodes versus K40, I'm assuming I have room. I'm probably going to bring along a diode laser with me down on my trip and have it, because I'll have 5-6 days out at this flying event, and it's a small city that gets assembled there, and I'll be able to set that up in the tent and mess around with things.
Well, speaking of which, you'll come by and grab the Clack Shack, portable Clack Shack, take it with you. You can sleep in it too, in the trailer. It might get hot. I just dropped that video of the floor mat. Borax. Yeah, I've tried borax. I don't like it.
Yeah, I haven't messed with it too much. I get why people want to use it because they want that real dark color, but you're basically just adding kind of a dusty char layer, and if you don't seal that in right away, it gets pretty messy and can get, ruins the effect and such. So I guess I haven't found an area where I have to have it that black on wood. I'm okay with the darker color you get on it.
Well, it goes away, and then also I found with some woods it'll actually cause it to stain like some weird colors,
right.
And it also causes the finish not to work right. But I mean, look that no borax, guys. That's just straight up laser. So I mean, if I've tried it, and like you said, Steve, you hit it with an air hose, and your darkness just goes away. So it's just not a fan. I've got a bag of borax over there, and I had a spray bottle that I had some mixed up in, but it just not for me. No, the lady hasn't got it to me yet. She said she was going to bring it by, but haven't heard anything yet. But I'm gonna try to get my hands on some test pieces. I just haven't got around to it yet.
So how about
I'll get.
Yeah. This that's a big it depends question.
Yeah. Well,
a lot of people, if they want something quick that's going to dry fast and seal well, they'll use like a spray lacquer. I personally, I'll go with either a polyurethane or a varnish type, whether it's spray on or wipe on. If it's food related, I'm probably not lasering it specifically, but I'll use more of a oil and wax type of product that's probably food safe. So really, it's more about what, it's what you would finish it with anyway. So you're looking at, do you want a sheen to it? Do you want it to just soak in? You're going for durability, things like that.
Exactly. Now, I will say this: if it's not something, and this is a little tidbit I'm going to share with y'all. If it's not something that you're going to be eating on, this stuff works really nice also. And it's the drying process is not as bad as some of the other products, and it looks good. But this is it's a lot of people use it for lathes, because on a lathe you just put it on a rag and you can kind of rub it on whatever it is that you're making. But I use it on a lathe as well as using it on a lot of my projects I make that I want to dry kind of fast. But I do wear gloves with it because it'll irritate your skin. I did find that out. On cedar, yeah, any wood. I mean, cedar too, but any wood, that's your options. Polyacrylic, polyurethane, or wipe-on poly, or mineral oil if it's going to be eaten on and not cooked. But there's some other stuff with beeswax and all that for cutting boards, but we won't get into that.
So I think Sharon's asked this a couple times and we missed it. I was wondering about direction on wood grain on laser bed, vertical or horizontal. It really shouldn't matter. It's more of if there's a structural need to your part. So for example, while cutting out something like this, where the grain is on certain woods, you get a thinner tab like this that can cause a weak spot. Now this is 1/4 inch cherry, so it's not weak, but that might be something to take into consideration. And also in engravings, the grain can have an effect on, if it's like a photorealistic one or even just a solid engraving. So you might want to match your laser travel of the engraving with your grain. But as far as cutting and just general stuff, it really shouldn't matter which direction it goes on in your bed.
Yeah, like I said, structural considerations as well as interference from the grain in pictures and stuff, because and some wood burns different than others. So then that grain can pop out in places that you don't really want it. So
I don't know if you want to take this one.
I'm trying to look through. Production. Oh my goodness, that's yours. I don't know that. I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, no, RCM Magazine. They have not been in existence for a while. It was a great magazine. They used to offer plans quite a bit, and I built a number of out of them. As a matter of fact, I used to write. I was a Midwest editor for Fly RC magazine, but they're no longer in production. So about the only ones that are left that I'm aware of in the U.S., Model Airplane News, which has been around forever, and then of course Model Aviation from the Academy of Model Aeronautics. Those are the two major ones still in the U.S. But yeah, magazines are tough to hold on to for a while, as far as subscribers and such, even advertisers. Everything's gone the way of the internet. So I think the cedar wood thing, that was James was asking about recommendations for settings on burning images. I don't know that I have my thing handy for that.
Depends on what power output did you see?
10 watt D1.
Cedar wood. 10 watt. 10 watt D wood with cedar. Is it Eastern or Western? Is it white cedar, red cedar?
I think a ballpark. I mean, you'd want to run your test. Now, there's a test that I run that you can get from LA Hobby Guy. It's his kind of all-inclusive test. This is part of it. And on a 10 watt, I would probably start running this around 5,000 to 6,000 millimeters a minute. And, you can see here, it's going to adjust the power for you on that. So that's what I would do is on most 10 watts, I'd run it around 5, maybe 6, and see from there. If it's too light, then you can slow it down. If it's too dark, speed it up.
Yeah, red cedar, usually about 80 millimeters a second is what I hit for. But now I do light sanding afterwards because I like to try to get it. I like to try to get it contoured to where the darker colors is kind of etched in there, giving a little bit of a 3D effect. Around 80 millimeters a second at 100% for red cedar that I cut. But each thing's going to be different. Like I said, your best bet is to do a test, like Steve's saying, and then just pick the one that you like, and go from there. What is the best way to align your project with the H or P20? You want to answer that one, Steve? I think I'm biased on that.
You build a big enclosure and stick a camera in it. Is that your bias?
No, for alignment, you use a Clack Shack jig with a squaring jig on there.
Wow.
The interchangeable jig kit with a squaring jig that keeps it square.
All right.
And a camera does help for, like, if you're not cutting, if you're engraving, it does help to align things. But the best way is with a Clack Shack interchangeable jig kit.
Yeah, with the 8s or 20, because of the way their head is, it's hard to see even if it's hard to see the dot even if you turn it up quite a bit. So yeah, using a jig is probably the best way. Camera's going to get you pretty close as well.
You hadn't seen what I did to mine, have you, Steve?
I'm not sure.
Hang on. Let me take a picture and send it to myself here. You can,
Jason,
fix that issue. Go ahead.
Oh, did you take the bottom shroud off?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can take that off. And that's an option. That does help. But even then,
just a second. I got a picture.
A jig's going to be the best way to really get it spot on. So, Jason is asking about the ComGrow camera boom and if it'll attach to the 8er with the extra attachments. I don't know if you found yours, but I think the problem that I've noticed is the 8er it's quite a bit. The rails are quite a bit taller, and so no, I don't.
Yeah, and a lot larger. They're a lot girthier too. So I don't know that would work. I mean, you could use the little because it did come with a foot that you could mount it to the work surface, and if you had it on a work surface, you could do that, and that would probably work. But here's the H'er. This is how you fix it to where when you're squaring or you're framing, you can see what you got going on there. That's what you do. If I get that chat out of the way.
Yeah, I just got that out.
That's what it looks like if you take the shroud off. There's 4 screws total in the bottom end of that machine. 2 of them hold the air assist cone on, and the other 2 hold the cover on. So I took the 2 screws out, took the cover off, and I like it much better. Now, waiver, it is not as safe as it was before I took that off. It's much less safe, but I run it in an enclosure, and I've got laser safe glass on the enclosure, so that wasn't a concern that outweighed the inconvenience, like Steve said, of trying to frame and not being able to see that dot. Because when you extend your machine, you can't rotate that cover to where the window is facing the outside of the machine. So unless I stick my head up in the enclosure, I can't see the dot with it in its current configuration. So I had to take that off. DPI settings. Steve, would you like to take this one? It's kind of sciencey.
So let's see. The 10 watt D1, that's probably got the 0.8 square dot, I think. You're not going to really be gaining anything over about 321 DPI at that size, and that's if you have perfect focus. So I wouldn't go any higher than that. You can start running into issues with it being kind of jittery because it can't move half steps. But I would go. Yeah, I was going to say about. I think it starts around defaults to about 270-ish, and you can bump it up to about 317 there. In that range is going to probably get you pretty close. I mean, you're probably not going to notice a whole lot of difference there. Obviously, the 250 is going to run faster. Really kind of depends on the detail of your photo. If you're starting off with a fuzzier photo, you're not going to really notice a whole lot extra with your increased DPI. But if you have a high quality photo, high resolution photo, you really play around with the contrast and whatnot, then running the higher DPI is going to help out. But I wouldn't go any higher than that.
All right, Steve, would you like to touch on this second part about how material also dictates LPI or DPI, certain materials?
Oh, you go for it.
Well, one thing to consider, I'm trying to get my camera fixed. One thing to consider, guys, is the material that you're engraving. Some woods, woods have the grain in woods is different sizes. So wood obviously is not going to be the DPI going higher and higher. You're only going to be able to get such clarity with wood. If you're doing, painted canvas, ceramic, your medium will dictate how much LPI will help you and how much it won't. If you're doing cork, you can run your LPI as high as you want, and there's a threshold to where it's just going to quit helping. It's not going to make it any clearer. So, like on mirrors, glass, stuff like that, LPI can help. Specifically with glass, it'll give you a little bit more. In my findings, it gives you a little bit better, like frosting. The frosting's more consistent with a higher LPI because you have basically just a little tiny impacts with the glass closer together, so you get a little bit smoother look on the frosting. And image quality, like I said, at some point, just like Steve says, you're gonna exceed the machine's capability based on the dot size. But I don't think I've ever put mine above 300. I mean, I'm just 300. It's either 127, 254, or 300. That's usually my go-tos. And 300 is going to be for a medium that is going to take a little extra resolution and be able to make a noticeable difference. So, my opinion. See you, Dave.
Yeah, that's one of the areas where I'll use MDF. It engraves really well, and it's a fairly smooth, consistent material. That's a good way to test, the differences in your DPI for the machine. But like Clack said, your material is going to make a huge difference depending on how it burns. A softwood versus a hardwood, it'll burn much faster and have a chance to spread more. So,
yep. Go ahead and answer this one. No, Mike. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't see how. I don't really see how taking the shroud off would increase anything on the nozzle. I do run air assist, and I pretty much run it all the time. I have positive pressure through there, so I wouldn't say any more. I mean, possibly even less because now it doesn't hold the smoke isn't being held. Which I use a downdraft type situation to where my smoke generally is being pulled down and below the honeycomb. But if anything, I would actually say it probably will help keep it from getting as clouded because that thing was so close to the work surface that if you figured up the surface area, the area in which that air is being allowed to escape, it was kind of restricting the cooling fan a little bit, I feel like. So I think it probably will actually do a better job of keeping the nozzle clean. So just my opinion. Like I said, I haven't really done a test per se, but I've actually considered even shortening the air assist nozzle just slightly with some sandpaper because it is still really, really close to the work surface.
Yeah, I was going to say I agree with that, where removing the shroud is probably more likely going to help with moving that vapor away, and it's going to have less chance to get trapped in there, and your cooling air moving through the module is going to have an easier chance to escape and not get restricted. So,
yeah, like I said, that's just my theory, but I mean, it sounds like a viable theory.
mm-hmm.
There you go, Steve. Have a number for the limit switch.
So, sure, it's nothing too fancy. It's your typical limit switch you'd use on any one of these. I'm trying to find the link for it. Here we go. I will grab that. Sorry, 1 minute. It's just your typical, three pole, normal open, normal closed option for your limit switch. And then that gives you you can choose, do you want the lights to turn on or off as the button is hit. So, and yeah, I do, it is on my list to do a little more video overview of that. I've just been trying to get the time and get the things together to do that.
Yep. All right, guys. Let's see, what time is it? 10-minute warning. we've been staying a little late. But 10-minute warning there. So if you got questions, go ahead and drop them. If you haven't already, go check us out on Facebook, myself and Steve. We're trying to build Facebook up as well. And also, don't forget about the laser engraving community page. And give me just a second. I'll be right back. I got to step out for a minute.
So, Jack, as far as the shrouds, I think what they're going for is that these are open frame lasers, and they were trying to include some safety from the flashback. And the only way to do that is to try to contain it. And so, from using it in its raw form without an enclosure, that does add a fair amount of safety to running these lasers. But yeah, they do tend to get in the way. Both have it sometimes hitting material when things pop up, and kind of cutting back on the airflow a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with them putting them on there, especially from a liability standpoint, because they don't want people getting hurt with the machines and saying that it was a lack of engineering or whatever. But I do wish they would understand that some of us would rather have them not on there. So I wish more companies would allow, taking them off, not to make them look bad or not to cause any kind of a functionality issues. Because if you focus the machine using the little sandwiched piece of acrylic and you take that shield off, now you're back to try to figure out how to do a focus. So
yeah, Ortura does a nice job with theirs. So they've got the air through the module, and so you don't have to disconnect anything. You can just take this off fairly easily. You get the right side, and then you can actually take the nozzle off. All toolless for easy maintenance and such. So they had made it a little bit easier to deal with that. You can see all around it, and it's probably just as effective as the others for the most part.
Yep. One more thing, guys, if you hadn't already, if you don't subscribe, please. I'm trying to make it to 10,000. I'm so close. It just ain't quite getting there. I'm trying. Trying to make it there. Hopefully within the next month, I can get there. I know, Steve, you hit 5 the other day, so
yep.
Halfway to that mark.
Yep.
It's downhill to 10 now.
Well,
you're over the hump.
A little momentum there, and if I can keep up with it, we'll see how that goes. But
yeah, well, how did the network perform tonight, Steve? I mean, you're brutally honest. I said, you're brutally honest. How did my network perform tonight? Have you seen any issues so far?
No,
Other
actually,
than I couldn't add another camera.
Well, you're just gonna blame me for that. But yeah, no, it seemed much better. Weren't any weird video or audio issues. So
that's great, because my wife knows how much work I put in, and I think my buddy Klein knows. But I put in some work to make this happen, guys. I got like my own little. I sent you the picture earlier of my own little server wall I had to build here in the Clack Shack because I didn't have a patch room. I appreciate that, Jack. Jack says it's must-see TV for him. Well, Clack's hair is better than that. Well, it is actually clearer, but it's not happening with the white situation. But I'm just embracing it, guys. If y'all did what I've done for the past 20 years, you'd have gray too. So, oh, look. Hey, Steve, eat your heart out. Brian's complimenting me now.
Wow.
But yeah, guys, Steve and I, like I said, we get these machines, and I like the fact too. Lately, it seems like me and you getting a lot of the same equipment. So you can kind of look at it from the technical approach, and then I can kind of look at it from the redneck approach, and we can figure out, the ins and outs of it. So I really like that. That way we can compare, and that's why I can't wait for Steve to get his Asomer over here and try it out. Because I want to see what his perspective is. Because everybody has different perspectives, guys, depending on what you're doing with the machine, what your expectations are. And in my opinion, the more people you can have put input into it, then the more of, I guess, dependable analysis you can have. And so I trust Steve's judgment. He points out things about machines sometimes that I overlook. And then sometimes I point out, easy fixes that he may overlook or whatever. So it's I like doing that. And I know we both got the X tool, because you've got the 20-watt X tool D1 now.
Mm-hmm.
So you're just getting your feet wet with the Pro though, right?
Yeah, this is the first Pro machine that I've had. I've been running with the original D1 about the same time you got yours, or around the same time. But yeah, I hadn't upgraded.
You had yours before I did, because I watched your review video when I bought mine.
So yeah, I've had a few more of their accessories and such, but yeah, no, it's part of the one thing I don't like, and I guess you sometimes see it with the lasers and such, but I've seen it a lot, especially in my RC hobby, is people put out these unboxing videos that tell me nothing, or someone will, use a product for like 10 minutes and say, oh, this is great, it does this, and the other thing. It sometimes takes me a little longer to get my videos out, but I put them through some paces. I want to make sure that what I'm seeing is consistent, because there's been a number of things, whether it's in this hobby or other, I'll get something and something's not working right, or something's going well and it either breaks or I figure it out, and my initial response could have been good or bad, and that'd been skewed. So yeah, I do take a little more time and try to do a little more scientific approach to some of it, and to really figure out the ins and outs of it. But yeah, it is fun to kind of compare and contrast how even you and I use these machines, and what we get out of them. So
yeah. Let's see. Somebody was asking about dust buildup. You're going to need to clean that thing pretty. You're going to need to clean that thing pretty regular. If you've got good airflow, it shouldn't just get crazily dusty. If it is, then you may want to look at maybe upping it a little bit, or maybe opening up. If you've got a big fan, just make sure you've got positive pressure coming through there. And if you still have plenty of positive pressure, you might want to add a little bit of intake to it to allow a little more airflow. But you're gonna get some dust in those fan blades. That's just the matter of the thing. But it shouldn't be terrible. So I always just kind of clean mine up and blow it out a little bit before I use it, especially if it's going to be a long, drawn-out job, because the last thing you want is to not do that and the machine overheat. And it like Steve said, electronics do not like heat. That is the killer of all things electrical. So you want to avoid that.
Yeah, I mean, he mentioned he built your first enclosure. As much as you can get that airflow below the laser head and even the inlet, so that the air doesn't have a chance to circulate above it, that'll help. But I've noticed on mine, running through some tests, cutting this different plywood and doing engravings and such, I'm noticing, especially on the red, it's easier to see. I'm seeing that dust build up on the top of that pretty quickly. So it's definitely something to keep in mind. Just take a pause and dust, blow it off, clean it out, and keep going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, somebody said a drag chain made a difference on their Pro 20-watt. That's one of your followers.
Yeah,
drag chains are cool.
Getting on that D1, especially that rear cable, if you can get that out of the way, it has a tendency to sometimes get in the way of even those limit switches and such. So it'd be great to see those on more, or just some way of getting those cables out of the way better. But sometimes it's the aftermarket, the stuff that really makes the products shine.
Did you see the Creality where it has those clips built into the frame? Metal
your video, I was looking at that. That's pretty cool how they run all those really out of the way, and they've got the strain relief on the corners and everything with those blocks. That they really put some thought into that. But they've been through it a while with their 3D printers and such.
Yeah, I got to do some more videos with that, and that's what try to look for some. I'm gonna do some project videos this week, hopefully, guys, because I've got the Creality Falcon 2 22 watt as well as the ASMR 10 watt that acts like a 20 watt. So I'm going to try to get some project videos out with those two machines and kind of show you some of the things that I like about them. There's one big one with the Creality, and we've talked about it tonight, and that is the lens cover on it. It's built a lot like the ComGrow 20 watt, where it's not removable. I've developed a plan to fix that, but we're not going to do it just yet. And eventually, I will be getting rid of that shield, but it's going to require some modification. So I'm going to wait until I've thoroughly tested it, so that if anything bad happens, I'll know it was something I did. But keep it coming, guys. Like I said, if you hadn't already, Laser Engraver Community on Facebook. Steve and I are through there pretty regular, checking on things. I've got some shared files that I've been dropping in there. Some of the people that are in the group are making some files that they're donating to the cause for different things. It's just a good place to hang out, share your work, pick each other's brains, and it's just, I enjoy it. Like I said, guys, I do this because I enjoy it primarily. That's why I got started. YouTube just kind of sprang up as a result of it. And I'm having a blast doing this, and you guys asking the questions and you guys watching the content and asking for content. That's what drives me to want to make it bigger and better. And I appreciate it. And like I said, go join that group. Check out Steve's page, my page. Give us a like on Facebook, because we're trying to get those things up there as well. And I'll hand it over to you, Steve, there.
Yeah, no, thanks everyone for hanging out tonight. It's great that we can at least be entertaining, but hopefully helping out some people with some questions and such real time. And as Clack said, hit up the Facebook pages. Make sure you subscribe to both channels so you can catch any of our content. And we'll see you again next week.
Yeah, and I'm glad my internet worked. Again, I'm glad it worked. Y'all be safe, guys. Have a good night.